Hello, long time no see. Today I'm going to be talking about Annihilation. This is the first in the Southern Reach series by Jeff VanderMeer. I'm not going to lie to you guys, the reason I picked this book up is because of the cover design, and not even this cover design, which I thought was gorgeous, and this cover design. There are now quite a few different publications of this series and they are all just stunning. Obviously I wanted to read it for more than just that, but that is what got me interested. It's quite a hard book to describe. In this world there is a space called Area X, and we have no context for how it's related to the real world. We don't really know anything about the real world. We don't really know anything about Area X. All we know is that it's expanding and you have to go through some strange process to get across the border between Area X and the real world. The main character in this book is called the biologist. That's all we know her as. The book begins with the biologist and three others, the surveyor, the anthropologist and the psychologist, as they embark on expedition number 12 into Area X. The impression we're given is that it's some natural landscape that is really mysterious and needs to be studied. Previous expeditions had had really mixed results, some ending in mass suicides, in mass shootings, in returning and not seeming like anything's wrong and then everybody dies of cancer. On the return of the first expedition, they just see Area X as some like beautiful, wondrous landscape with nothing wrong. We have no idea about the government structure. We don't know who's organising these expeditions, besides that it is public information to some degree and you can volunteer to be part of one of these expeditions if you have specialist knowledge. The biologist and her three companions, all women by the way, so that's awesome. They've embarked on this expedition, they get to base camp which has been set up by previous expeditions, and they have a whole range of equipment. They can take samples, they're supposed to record all of their observations in these journals. On the first day away from base camp, they discover a tunnel which isn't on any of the existing maps they have from previous expeditions. It's one of those things that's very creepy and intriguing and nonsensical, and they experience things and see things that don't seem to be possible. Because we get this from the biologist's point of view, we see a lot of her kind of sample taking, being like, this is something that doesn't exist on Earth. The psychologist is there to kind of lead the group and make sure everybody's calm, and then we discover she has hypnotic cues to evoke certain responses in other members of the party, so it's like she knows more and we don't know why. We hear quite a bit about the biologist's life pre-Area X. We get a very good sense of her character, which frankly, like, I wouldn't be friends with this person. She seems quite antisocial and self-serving and unparticipatory, but I didn't loathe her or anything. She was a fine perspective to read from, and actually her character really favours the positions she's put in where she has to like not really be very empathetic. It's very hard to describe exactly what this book is and what happens, so I guess I'll leave it there. I did enjoy this book quite a lot, even though it's not the type of thing I usually read. Mystery in a sort of fantasy-esque setting is very, very strange and mostly unrewarding because you don't feel like you ever get to the root of the problem. It was just the right amount of page turner for me, where you want to know what's going on, but it's not like giving you all the answers, so it's just kind of like stringing you into reading the next page. I bought the second and the third books in this trilogy. It seemed to be quite a lot bigger than the first one. Unfortunately different, because I bought this in America and they don't sell these in England. These are also really beautiful. I'm probably going to end up buying this edition for the first one again because I like my sets to be sets. I'm excited to read those, and I probably will do a series review once I've read those as well. There are two elements I really liked about this book that I want to talk about. The first is this weird feeling of premonition you get with this writing style. Because it's written in the first person, you're very aware that the biologist has written this in retrospect. There's a point very early on in the book where she just spoils herself for later on by being like, but she dies in 2 days anyway. It's like, I feel this is breaking the rules of narrative somehow. But then there's also quite a few more subtle references that are like, at the time I thought blah 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 blah, responding to a situation, implying that there's cause for her to change her mind about her response to that later on. And it's all these tiny hints that add up to this really nice aura of mystery. It's a thing that usually frustrates me in books when a narrator is like, haha, I know more than you, I know how it's all gonna work out and you're just gonna have to wait. In this book it wasn't portrayed obnoxiously, it's just every time she makes one of these little references, you get to remember that, oh, she's gonna get to a point where she has the ability to write all this out. The second thing I want to talk about is horror. Now this is a very tenuous link, so bear with me. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the podcasts I listen to is called Tannis. I think it started in October and the first season finished a couple of weeks ago. It's a mystery podcast about this thing called Tannis, which is some like weird mythological something that moves every 400 years and it grows and it's a space and it's blah blah blah. I don't want to ruin Tannis for you because I think it's really good and you should all go listen to it, but there are striking resemblances between that and this book. They have to go on this weird multi-day expedition where they end up at a building type place, and they even lose their names the same way they do in Area X, and they refer to themselves as like the writer and the runner, etc. I've since looked this up and there are quite a few Reddit posts that also see the similarities. It's highly likely that Tanis was heavily influenced by VanderMeer, which is fine. They're both very good pieces of media in their own right. The thing that got me thinking about it is that Tanis is more horror than it is mystery, and that's entirely in the way it's presented to you. Even though in Annihilation so many really horrible things happen, and a lot of the imagery of like beings and morphing and nature and this biological aspect is really creepy, but I think the only thing that doesn't make it a horror is the fact that the protagonist and none of the characters are scared. Everybody in the book has so much more intrigue than they have fear, which is why it doesn't feel like horror when you're reading it, because nobody responds with fear. However, having read this right after I finished Tanis and immediately seeing that comparison, I was inclined to be wary and fearful of a lot of the mysterious aspects of it that I don't think you would be if you read it without having that comparison. So here's my question. Is fear the thing that makes horror horrible? Is it seeing people respond to the things with fear? Or as a reader, is it your perception of the things being horrible that makes it horror? So this has been my review discussion chat of Annihilation by Jeff VanderMeer. I am super busy with life constantly at the moment, so I don't know when I'll have that video for you about the whole of the series, but hopefully in the next couple weeks. Thank you, and I will see you in the comments below.